Imagine you're sitting around a fire. It's 100,000 years ago. You're cold, you're hungry, and there's something massive and furry lurking just outside the light. You want to warn your buddy across the fire, so you do what any modern human would do. You open your mouth, and absolutely nothing comes out. Because here's the thing nobody talks about. There was a time, a real, documented, scientifically verified time when human beings could not speak. Not a single word. Not a grunt that meant anything, just biological silence. And the question of how we went from that, from a creature staring blankly at a mammoth, to a species that invented podcast drama, political debates, and the phrase, "I'm fine," when we are clearly not fine, is one of the most extraordinary mysteries in science. Language leaves no fossil record. You cannot dig up a sentence. You cannot carbon date a conversation. Language is made of air, and air does not survive for hundreds of thousands of years. So scientists reconstruct its origins from clues: skulls, hyoid bones, genetics, cave art, and careful inference. Before humans had language, they almost certainly had communication. Bees dance to indicate flowers. Dolphins use signature whistles. Chimpanzees communicate with calls and gestures. But communication is not the same thing as language. A signal is direct. A growl means danger because the growl itself is part of the threat. A symbol is different. The word danger is simply a collection of sounds that people collectively agree represents a concept. Every word you have ever spoken is a shared social invention. The leap from signal to symbol may have been one of the most important cognitive revolutions in history. Scientists disagree about exactly when it happened. One view, the continuity hypothesis, suggests language evolved gradually over hundreds of thousands of years from increasingly sophisticated communication systems. Another view, the discontinuity hypothesis, argues that a major cognitive breakthrough occurred between roughly 100,000 and 50,000 years ago, suddenly enabling full language with recursive syntax and complex grammar. The truth may involve elements of both. Language is not only mental, it is physical. Human speech depends on anatomy, especially the position of the larynx. In most mammals, including chimpanzees, the larynx sits high in the throat. This arrangement helps prevent choking, but limits the range of sounds they can produce. Humans have a lower larynx, creating a larger vocal tract that allows a much wider variety of speech sounds. The trade-off is obvious. Humans are far more vulnerable to choking. Unfortunately, soft tissues do not fossilize. What does survive is bone. One important clue comes from the hyoid bone, a small U-shaped bone in the throat involved in speaking and swallowing. A remarkably well-preserved Neanderthal hyoid discovered at Everett Cave in Israel was nearly identical to that of modern humans. This suggested Neanderthals may have possessed the physical capacity for speech. Then genetics added another piece of the puzzle. Researchers identified a gene called FOXP2. Although often incorrectly described as the language gene, it plays a crucial role in speech and language abilities. People with damaged versions of FOXP2 experience severe difficulties with speech coordination and grammar. Humans possess a distinctive version of this gene. When scientists examined Neanderthal DNA, they discovered Neanderthals shared the same key FOXP2 mutations found in modern humans. That finding suggested important speech-related adaptations were already present in a common ancestor more than 400,000 years ago. By that point, much of the biological foundation for speech may already have existed. But biology alone does not explain language. What were the first words? No one knows. Several theories attempt to explain how language began. The bow-wow theory proposes that early words imitated sounds from the environment. The poo-poo theory suggests language originated from emotional vocalizations such as cries, laughs, and exclamations. The yo-he-ho theory argues that rhythmic sounds used during coordinated labor eventually evolved into speech. Some researchers even suggest music may have preceded language. The ta-ta theory proposed that speech evolved from vocal imitations of gestures. While largely abandoned, it helped inspire broader interest in the relationship between gesture and language. Today, many scientists take the gesture hypothesis seriously. Brain regions involved in language are closely connected to regions responsible for hand movements. Pointing, one of the most fundamental communicative acts, appears early in human development and may have played a crucial role in language origins. Language may have begun with the hands before becoming primarily vocal. Yet perhaps the most important ingredient is social cognition. Language requires theory of mind, the ability to understand that other individuals possess thoughts, beliefs, intentions, and knowledge different from your own. When people communicate, They assume others can understand their intentions. This shared mental framework allows symbols to function. Many animals communicate effectively, but humans appear uniquely capable of sharing information simply for the purpose of sharing it. We tell stories. We discuss the past. We imagine the future. We exchange ideas. As human groups grew larger and more complex, communication became increasingly valuable. Some researchers argue that language evolved partly to manage social relationships. Language allowed people to maintain bonds across larger groups than physical grooming ever could. In this view, gossip became one of humanity's most powerful technologies. Once language existed, feedback loops accelerated human development. Language improved cooperation. Cooperation supported larger societies. Larger societies generated more information. More information created pressure for more sophisticated language. Knowledge could now be transmitted across generations with unprecedented efficiency. Instead of rediscovering everything from scratch, people could build upon what others had learned. Cultural evolution began moving far faster than biological evolution. Language enabled planning, storytelling, teaching, cooperation, deception, religion, law, and collective identity. Agriculture, cities, writing, science, and the modern world all trace back to this transformative innovation. We do not know exactly when language emerged. We do not know precisely where, though evidence strongly points to Africa. We do not know the first word. But by around 70,000 years ago, language was almost certainly fully developed. Modern humans began producing art, jewelry, advanced tools, and long-distance trade networks. These behaviors suggest minds capable of rich symbolic thought. The cave paintings of Chauvet, the Venus figurines, ancient flutes, ochre pigments, and decorative shells all reflect a species capable of turning ideas into physical reality. Language externalizes thought. It transforms private mental experiences into shared knowledge. Today, more than 7,000 languages exist. Despite their diversity, they share deep structural similarities. Many linguists argue these similarities reflect an underlying biological capacity built into the human brain. Children around the world acquire language in remarkably similar ways. They babble, produce single words, combine words, and eventually master complex grammar. The capacity is universal. It is part of what makes us human. That capacity emerged through countless evolutionary changes: a lowered larynx, genetic adaptations, growing social complexity, brains increasingly specialized for communication and cooperation. All of these factors may have contributed, and eventually, somewhere in ancient Africa, two people may have sat around a fire in the darkness. One noticed danger approaching, one communicated that information, the other understood. That moment changed everything. Language began as shared understanding, two minds connecting across the dark. And in many ways, that is still exactly what language is today.